Good morning and welcome to SEUfire.com. I'm Donnie Smith. Today's special guest on Fire Away is sophomore wrestler Isaac Crowell. Isaac, first of all, now with the change in scenery, if you will, how have you spent your time away from campus these last couple months?
Well, I've been working out at home. We got a little wrestling mat out in the backyard. I work out with my dad a little bit. Other than that, I've just been working landscaping, just trying to stay in shape, getting ready for next season and stuff.
When you look back at last season, what are you the most proud of?
I think probably the most proud of last season. I started off a little slow. First tournament, I went 3-2, and then had a close loss to the number 7 kid who I'd lost to before the week past, and I was in danger of getting kind of pulled out of the top 12, going to tournaments and stuff. And Brando talked to me. He sat me down in the office right before the fire duels and said he wants to kind of either instill my confidence in me just to see what I have. And he sent me out against the number 16 kid in the country at the time against Cumberland's, and I got to wrestle that match, and I felt like I wrestled really well. I think that lit a little bit of a fire on me. Just coming back from a slow start, I don't think since I started wrestling, ever started that slow. But that was kind of a turning point in my season. I just feel like the confidence that I built at the beginning of the season was what I was most proud of. Like, I wasn't sure what I was coming into as far as my first season, and just getting that confidence under my belt was great for me.
I think that confidence had to be a big part in the success that you had at the national tournament when you knocked off Emmanuel Brown, who's the number 2 seed in your second match of nationals. Kind of walk us through that match, the 4-3 win, which was probably one of my favorite highlights of all the athletic year last year.
Yeah, that match was kind of nuts for me. Not gonna lie, like, I went into that match, I knew what I was capable of, but personally, like, I didn't feel nervous, which is usually kind of a scary feeling for me, because usually when I don't feel nervous, I start to get a little sketched out, and I didn't feel any type of nerve because it was a win-win situation for me. I came in the tournament unseeded, and I had an opportunity to wrestle one of the top-ranked guys right out of the gate. So I got that first warm-up match in me, close match, but like, I got into that match just thinking, whatever happens, happens. I always go through my same prayer, same routine right before a match, and I just felt really like kind of at peace. And once I started getting in that match, I felt stronger, like, as far as like just mentally, everything. The first match kind of gave me the confidence, like I was talking about earlier. And once we started wrestling, we got into that scramble in the first period that lasted probably for a solid minute. I felt really comfortable. I always feel comfortable when I'm scrambling. It's just not a position other people are comfortable with. So I feel like, being kind of a taller 125, and he was a little bit shorter than I was, he was extremely strong, but I felt like I had him outlengthed a little bit. But throughout that match, I just felt like I could hear the coaches in my corner, and normally I can't hear anything when I'm wrestling with all the stands and stuff and all the crowd. But during that match, getting that first takedown in the first period, I knew I had a little bit of confidence rolling into the second and third period, and I knew if I could just keep that lead, not just wrestling to not lose, but wrestling to win, and just wrestling my match smart, I feel like probably was the key to winning that match. And as I went through it and stuff, I kept feeling like, oh, I can beat this kid. When you're at the national tournament, anything can happen. And once I got that first takedown, I'm like, I can do this. This is cool. I can do this.
What's it like wrestling with Coach Jorge on a daily basis? How does he go about getting the best out of you guys?
Coach Jorge has been, honestly, a tremendous blessing as far as me athletically. He has been amazing for me. He really tailors practices. He tailors practices to work on things that we need to individually. I know there's things that don't work for certain people, and then there's things that work for others. But as the season progresses and as kids start getting matches under their belts, he really identifies like the need areas and the things that we're good at, and he makes it general. That way people can succeed no matter what type of style they wrestle. He really knows and really cares for his wrestlers. He makes sure like everyone's put into a position where they can succeed on their own right. Because there's kids in there that have all types of different goals. I know coming in to this year, he had expectations for me because he knew where I could be. And that's the thing with Brando. Brando's always planning ahead. He knows what we need probably before we know we need it, which is probably the best thing about him. I know towards the end of the year, he was tailoring. He was having individual practices where we would come in a certain time with a certain partner, and we would come in and fine-tune things, like things that we were really good at. We would work. And then there was things that he felt like we needed that we'd also work. It would be like an hour practice, and it was perfect. He knew exactly what we needed and what we needed to do to get to the next level. So under Coach Jorge, I feel like Fire Wrestling's in probably the best hands in the country, I feel.
Each match day for you guys is a little unique, whether you've got one match, it could be a tournament of 4 matches, who knows. How do you go about getting yourself mentally and physically prepared to go out and battle?
For me personally, I have a little bit of like a different routine. I know ever since I was little, I always, the night before, I sleep in my warm-up. It's a little weird, but I sleep in my warm-up the night before. That way I can just wake up and just focus on what I got going on firsthand. So whether it's like a match or a tournament, I always go into match just thinking, I don't know if you've seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge, but Hacksaw Ridge, he during the World War II there was a mission they were doing, and the main character was a medic, and every day he would go out and try to get people out of the field that might be injured, and he's just replaying the thought in his mind. He said he's praying to God, saying, "Just help me get one more." No matter what the situation, going into a match day, I just pray for God to give me the strength to get one more, whether it's one more takedown, one more shot, and just one more point, just to help the team. But going into match days, I just feel like prayer and just mental preparation. I'm just always sitting there visualizing what I have to do for the next day.
That's awesome. Let's get away from the wrestling mat a little bit. What was your favorite class from this past semester?
Okay, so my favorite class, I'm an education major, in secondary education, and I feel like education psychology. That's always been, psychology has always been something that I've been really fascinated with. I don't think it would be anything I could ever major in, just because it's a little crazy for me personally. But just finding out about the mental aspect behind how kids learn, I think is just completely fascinating. And learning all the different type of learning styles, learning tools that kids can use, how it affects them in the classroom and in personal life. It was probably one of my favorite classes I've ever taken, just in general.
Favorite sport outside of wrestling?
Favorite sport outside of wrestling? Definitely football. I played football all 4 years of high school. Football was my first love. I started playing football in 5th grade way before I even thought about wrestling. But then I realized I was probably going to be 5'6" the rest of my life, and figured, it might not be the move for me. But football's always been something that's been close to my heart, and I love watching it when I'm not wrestling. It's great.
Favorite team?
Oh, Arizona Cardinals. Okay. Been a Cardinals fan ever since I was little.
What advice do you have for high school athletes getting ready to compete in college?
Probably my biggest piece of advice is probably don't be afraid to seek out better competition. I know some people, even me personally, when I was starting to grow in the sport, I wanted to stay in my little area. Just I want to wrestle the kids I want to wrestle. I know where I can win and where I can't. Mm-hmm. But I want encouraging kids to go out, wrestle national tournaments, wrestle high-end competition, because Fargo, the national All-American spot for high school in freestyle and Greco, I feel like that's one of the key things that helped me progress as I was getting ready to go to college, is wrestling those high-caliber guys in high school, because once you get into college, everyone's a state champ. Everyone's All-American at some national tournament. No match is going to be easy. So making sure you seek out that type of competition early on, so once you get to college, it's not a huge adjustment.
What excites you about next season?
I'm just excited to get back with the team. Honestly, I miss those guys so much. Just being with those guys just every day, it's completely different than your normal school day friends, but getting back with your friends, but competing. Honestly, being with those guys and just competing every day, because I know they're going to be there to push me when I need it, lift me up when I need it, and just being with the team and getting ready to compete for another national title.
All right, what's your favorite part about being at Southeastern?
Being at Southeastern, probably my favorite part is, I know it's going to sound a little cliche considering it's a Christian college, but the God atmosphere there. Honestly, everything that we do, whether it's chapel, whether it's practice, we always end it with a word of prayer and making sure our hearts are focused on God more than anything else. Yeah, school and wrestling, they're great things to motivate us throughout life, but everything points back to God in the aspect of Southeastern. That's the huge part. That was a huge part why I chose Southeastern. I was looking at a couple other secular schools, but like Southeastern really just brought me in with that atmosphere. They really care about their athletes and every student there, and I feel like it greatly contributed to the Christian atmosphere.
Isaac, thanks so much for your time today. Have a great summer.
Thanks so much.